Andrew, when you look at WA, it's been a year of, tough year really for so many people around the world. Our own, family and friends in Victoria have copped it this year. Terrible lockdown over the last 12 months. WA is largely untouched. 1
5-day lockdown over one case, Kieran, but there is a fear actually in WA that they're not ready for any cases. That's the other side of this. I mean, I travelled there in January, and the people there, apart from telling you how great Mark McGowan was every 5 minutes, basically also said, we don't want any cases, not even one case here, because we're not ready for it. And my daughter and I got off the train. She said to me, I'm not used to this, Dad. There's no social distancing. So it really has been a life akin to normal. And one of the questions that we'll be looking at tonight, obviously, and I'm sure Ben Morton will be about to tell me it has no effect, is what possible effect does this have federally? This result, this feeling that we kept COVID out, it was us, it wasn't the Commonwealth Government, it wasn't the eastern states. Scott Morrison, of course, encouraged by Christian Porter, Matthias Cormann and others, challenged in the High Court the border bans and then quickly pulled out, wrote a letter to Mark McGowan when he saw how desperately unpopular that was. Scott Morrison and Ben Morton over here championed a policy of suppression rather than elimination. That language came off as they also saw in WA and Queensland how heavy the feeling was in terms of total elimination. Ben, I'll put it to you. Will there be any backlash for the Liberals? Do you, as a Liberal and a representative of Scott Morrison, cop any in terms of walking around Perth and hearing about Mark McGowan? Do you think there'll be any effect out of this?
Well, look, there's no doubt that Mark McGowan is popular, and we've spoken about that already. The other thing, I think this is very much a Mark McGowan re-election campaign, not a Labor Party one. But I also think that Western Australians are looking at the success of the WA government in dealing with COVID as an incumbent government, and that's why his popularity has increased. Likewise, here in Australia, the contribution of all governments in Australia has led to Australia being a world leader in our COVID response as well. And look, as for this nonsense that the Liberal Party was supporting Clive Palmer's court case, the Commonwealth Government was doing what it would ordinarily do, and that was to participate in High Court cases about the Constitution.
Is that why Scott Morrison had to write Mark McGowan a letter?
That's right.
On the front
Scott
of the
Morrison.
Bingo.
Scott Morrison. And I've actually got the letter here, just so it happens.
He's brought the letter in.
He's got a folder.
Actually, as you said...
Let's hear the letter.
No. As you know, the Commonwealth did not bring these proceedings. It's the Commonwealth's preference that this case had never been brought forward. Actually, what Scott Morrison and the Commonwealth did was to actually get out of this case altogether, which is unprecedented.
But everyone in WA knows that Scott Morrison wanted those borders open at a time Mark McGowan wanted them shut and the community wanted them shut. I, in fact, wanted them open at the time. I thought suppression was a better policy. Still do, Ben. Does that have any form of blowback when it comes to federal election time for Scott Morrison?
Well, I think Scott Morrison's been quite clear in relation to where there are to be borders, and don't forget, we have actually a Commonwealth border as well, so this suggestion that we're against borders is nonsense. But where there are borders, particularly on the East Coast where there's border communities, the way those borders were put in place has caused an enormous amount of disruption for those border communities. Scott Morrison has accepted, and through his actions have accepted, that the circumstances in WA has been different. So I think there's a bit of conflation of the federal government's position here as well, all because we don't have any border communities. We don't have Albury-Wodonga, we don't have Tweed and the Gold Coast.
So just keep it shut all the time?
And Scott Morrison has said this. No, you use border controls where they are appropriate, and you have very clear understandings of when they are to be used and when they're not to be used. And that's something that Scott Morrison has been very consistent on.